women in STEM just at school, and then we're gonna have a little bit of my personal story, how I see my friends interact around me, and how I see my classmates in class regarding this issue. And then we're gonna have some statistics relating to women in STEM, their interest, and women at school who are interested in STEM. And then lastly, we're gonna end with Alisa's personal story, and also Miss Kiefte will be sharing her personal story. So first, I would just like to give a little bit of an intro on what is our program and what is our organization. So CISA STEAM is a program developed to introduce STEM to growth in our community. And our mission is to eliminate these stereotypes surrounding women in STEM and expose girls to STEM topics through introductory courses in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And on here is our QR code that if you scan will lead to our website, and we will put this QR code up again at the end of the presentation. So let's just get right into it. So girls in STEM at school often experience math anxiety. So what is math anxiety? It's when one feels uncertain regarding their skills in mathematics, making them feel panicked or worried about solving math problems. So math anxiety is something that happens to both genders, not only to girls. But girls experience math anxiety much earlier on compared to boys. Many girls lose confidence in math by third grade, and boys are more likely to say that they are strong in math by second grade before any performance differences are evident, which means that before boys perform better than girls or girls perform better than boys, boys are more likely to be confident in their skills at math. And one of the reasons is because teachers who are predominantly women often have math anxiety that they pass on to girls. So they would make girls work harder for the same work because they assume that girls need to work harder to achieve the same level as boys. And there is often a stereotype around that boys have this math brain that makes them more developed to do math, which is not true. Studies show that there is no innate cognitive biological difference between men and women in math. So next, we're just moving on to my personal story. So all around me, I have a lot of female friends who are interested in STEM and perform very, very well in STEM courses like comp sci, math, chemistry, physics. And obviously, I have male friends around me that do the same. Say a boy and a girl both have a 96 in, let's say, computer science. I find that society is more likely to ask the boy and view him as smart and super intelligent in computer science and all STEM courses. While on the other hand, the girl who has the same grade as the boy and participates equal amounts or even more than the boy is often regarded as, oh, she's just good at STEM, yeah, but I think the boy is better. Society tends to lean towards asking the boy for problems regarding the subject, and they disregard the girl. And next, we are going to talk about my accounting class. In accounting class, we play this game called Bluff when we are reviewing for our tests. So what is Bluff? Bluff is basically a game when the teacher splits you into two groups. So for that particular day, it happened to be boys versus girls. And how this game works is that the teacher will ask a question to one group. And if you know the answer, you will stand up. Or you can pretend you know the answer and stand up. And the teacher will call on one person that is standing. So if you're sitting, the teacher cannot call on you. The teacher will call on one person that is standing and ask them to answer the question. If they answer right, their team will get the point. But if they answer wrong, the other team will get the point. So technically, you don't have to know the answer to stand up. You can just pretend and be confident and just try your luck. I find that in this class, boys are much more likely to stand up and be confident compared to girls. even when I can confidently say that boys in this class do not perform as well as the girls on average. I find that girls need a lot more encouragement. They need their friends to say, yes, you can do this, you got this, you're right, come on, I know you know this, for them to be able to stand up. And even with that, they're really hesitant and sometimes appear to lack confidence to the teacher and to the boys. And one other thing I noticed is that boys, even after they get the answer wrong, they are still super confident in themselves. They will 100% stand up again, pretend they know the answer, and they don't really feel embarrassed. But on the other hand, girls, when they get one or two questions wrong, they're so scared of being called on again that they're just super unlikely to stand up. I personally know this girl, and she stood up, didn't know the answer, got picked on by the teacher, and that happened 2 times. And after that, she never stood up again in the game of bluff, even for other unit tests. So this just shows that girls are more likely to lack confidence and be discouraged by wrong answers compared to boys in the same class. Even when the girls perform better, they still lack the confidence to speak up. So why should we care in the long run? Looking at women in STEM at work, women only make up 27% of the STEM workforce. They publish less and are paid less for research and do not progress as far in their careers as men. Also, women make up only 15% of the management roles in STEM, and 34% of women are more likely to say that STEM jobs are hard to understand compared to men. And only 22% of young women name technology as a favorite subject in school, leading to fewer women that think that they would be good at STEM roles compared to men. And on top of that, the gender pay gap is particularly high in some of the fastest growing and highest paid jobs of the future, namely computer science and engineering. Based on a study conducted in 2017, women represented 53% of the bachelor's degree recipients in science, engineering, and math, which may seem like a good amount, even over 50%. However, the gender distribution in STEM fields is more uneven when looking into specific fields of study. Women only represent 19% of undergraduate degree computer science and information sciences recipients, 21% of bachelor's degree in engineering and engineering technology. And as we already talked about, computer science and engineering are two of the fastest growing and highest paid jobs in the industry today. And why is that so? Well, firstly, of course, there are so many gender stereotypes. STEM is often viewed as masculine, and teachers and parents often underestimate girls' math abilities starting as early as preschool. Personally, my parents have always known that math, computer science, AI, technology are going to be the trend when I grow up. So they always pushed me to do math courses, computer science courses, hoping I would take an interest. And they firmly believed that I needed to take more of these courses compared to boys, not because that I wasn't interested, I wanted to study something else, but because I'm a girl, and girls are naturally not as talented in these subjects compared to boys. So they just need to study harder, work more, and put more effort into it, which is not true. And secondly, there is a male-dominated culture. Fewer women study and work in STEM because this field tend to perpetuate inflexible, exclusionary, male-dominated culture that are not supportive or attractive to women and minorities. So let's look at some of the benefits of having women in STEM. Of course, it will address skill shortages, educating, training, and hiring more women and other underrepresented groups in STEM can also lead to better scientific and financial outcomes. And there will be increased innovation and capacity This is because increasing diversity in the workforce means gaining a variety of perspectives and ideas, which can give organizations a more competitive edge. This provides a greater return on human resources investments, and studies show that more diverse research teams publish more papers and receive more citations than more homogeneous teams, which are not diverse. Similarly, companies with greater diversity have significantly higher profitability than those without it. So basically, the more diverse your team is, the more likely you are to make money. And lastly, at a young age, girls are more mature than boys, leading to better performances and more concentration in classes, which leads to higher efficiency and better results in competitions and practices. And then we are going to talk about the importance of having an early exposure to STEM. So 78% of STEM college students say that they decide to study it in high school, and 21% decide to pursue STEM in middle school or sooner, which shows that having an early exposure to STEM in elementary, middle school, high school can be critical to a girl who wants to explore STEM later on in life. However, interest with STEM lessens with age. So if you're between 11 to 14-year-olds, they are 18% more likely than students aged 15 to 17-year-olds to consider math as a favorite subject. And students from 11 to 17-year-olds have a natural interest in STEM. 84% enjoy working on computers, 73% enjoy science class, 60% enjoy math, and 54% say science is one of their favorite subjects. So this shows that as teenagers grow, as they mature, when they're 15, 16, 17, they are more likely to be influenced by the society's perspectives and opinions. If their parents, friends, teachers continue to tell them that, oh, girls are not right for STEM, you should study liberal arts, you should go paint, you should do music, then they are very likely to fall into those traps and doubt themselves in their future career in STEM. And next, we have Alisa's story. She is currently a grade 9 student at Appleby College with a lot of experience in robotics and team competitions, and she'll be sharing what she has seen in these teams and her personal experience.
Hi everyone, my name is Alisa. Today I'm going to talk about a brief outline of my STEM experience as well as my favorite parts, an earlier and more recent experience, as well as comparing them, some of my observations and thoughts on girls in STEM. First off, with the experience, I've had a few years of experience with robotics, during which I learned a lot about coding, programming, and engineering, which I found really fascinating and fun. I've also competed in several competitions, mainly competition organized by a organization called FIRST, which has competitions ranging from including kids from grade 1 to 12. It was a great opportunity to meet and for me and a lot of different girls to try something new in such as robotics. My favorite parts are coding and programming because there's a lot of flexibility in it, and I really like learning about coding hardware. I also really enjoy doing math because it's really applicable in real life, and I really enjoyed problem solving and logic. Now I'm going to compare some of my earlier experience and more recent experience. I started showing a lot of interest in coding and robotics, mainly through simple things such as Lego. At a really young age, I would complete sets and take them apart and start building other things. I started STEM at an early age because I was really interested in it, also because my parents were really willing to support me to try new things. For example, I used to live in North York, which is much closer to a robotics club I went to, but then I moved to Oakville for educational purposes, and it's an hour drive to the club, but my parents still insisted that they would drive me there once a week, which I'm really grateful for. I don't think I would gone this far without the support of my parents. I started doing robotics in grade 4. And I didn't seem to notice any gender inequality because I wasn't really aware that this was a problem. And when I start looking back in the recent years, I do realize there are some inequalities. And this is because when I started robotics, I was in teams mainly composed of girls, which allowed better communication, more connection. For example, two of my best friends were on the team. Um, I only started noticing this problem recently after being put on a high school robotics team composed of 15 people and being the only girl in it. Um, this reminded me of when I was playing soccer on a rep soccer team when I was younger, and it was co-ed, but there were around 40 people on the team and mainly composed of boys, and there was only 4 girls, so that wasn't great. And in this year's competition, which I was on a team with 15 people on being the only girl in it, I got a lot of rules that I didn't really want from the coach. For example, he would put me mainly on jobs such as like marketing or making PowerPoints or writing team portfolios, which is usually what I consider the boring parts. Um, but I'm more interested in hardware, like driving the robot or designing it. And every time I wanted to try something new, the guys would seem really annoyed and didn't really want me to do it. And most of the time, the coach wouldn't step in. And even when I do try some of these things and do it better than most members of the team, they still wouldn't let me do it. Um, Looking back, I really regret not fighting back and like fighting for myself to gain one of those main roles. But it's probably because I've been lucky enough in the past to be put on teams where I was feeling more engaged, which led me to not having the motivation when to fight back when I was mistreated. Because I used to be on main teams, team mainly composed of girls, and this problem wouldn't really occur because we would usually evenly um, set up the roles. And I really regret doing this, not fighting back, because I think I would have done so much more and so much better during the competition, and it would have just been so much better of an experience for me. Some observations I've made over the years is that I started seeing a lot of more girls in robotics competitions over the course of 4 years. For example, this year in a competition I went to, um, 4 out of the 10 of the teams that made to the finals had females as their representative or captain, which was just really nice to see. Um, it makes me feel less lonely and encouraged me to do more robotics. What I also noticed is that a lot of young girls actually have the capability of doing so much more and so much better, but were pushed down doing not due to not being supported by their parents or their peers, which is very unfortunate. For example, I have a friend who really wanted to pursue a STEAM career and want to do robotics with me, a bunch of stuff. But her parents really want her to pursue like music and arts, the more traditional way, and which led to her being actually pursuing in art and music. And just recently she told me that she really regretted it and wish she would have fought back to her parents so she can pursue a career that she actually wanted. And I'm going to end with a thought of mine is that many people think that people are promoting girls to take over STEM, which means STEM will be composed of mainly females. But I think what we and many people really want is to have the same amount of males and females and not getting mistreated in STEM. Yeah, and that's about it. Thank you for listening.
Okay, that was really great. And we just have a couple of polls that we're going to launch right now. And we just wanted to hear a little bit more about your opinions. Like, do you guys ever experience math anxiety? And are you interested in STEM or STEM courses? Okay. I can't tell if there's a poll popping up. Okay, I guess we will move on without it. So And then next, oh, never mind. There's a poll. Yay. Okay, while the answers are coming, I can also talk a little bit about my response to these questions. So, does doing math makes you feel anxious? Well, yes. um, I also have math anxiety, and some of them is sometimes is subconscious. Like I don't even notice it, but I tend to feel like the boys in my class are just so much smarter than me. And I would ask them for help instead of asking my female friends. And yeah, sometimes it's also just a habit because society has just been telling us that oh, girls are not good in STEM. So you should look to boys, boys are better. So I just want you guys to know it's okay to feel anxiety while doing math, but also just be confident in yourself. A lot of the times, girls can perform better than boys. I see that a lot in my class. But yeah. And then, are you interested in STEM? Yes? Okay, a lot of people say yes. I'm glad to see you guys are interested in STEM. And then, have you seen biases against women in STEM personally? Yes, personally, I have seen a lot of that, as I've talked about in my story. Like, girls are just viewed as not as good, like, not enough. Even though some of them even have better marks, but they don't show off their marks like boys do. So society is like, oh my gosh, that boy has a 96, they're so smart. Well, maybe three other girls can have a 98, they just don't talk about it. I do see in the chat, I'm not really sure if I am interested. I'm assuming this means that like you're not really sure if you're interested in STEM yet, which is totally okay because all of you guys have a lot of time. Like if you're in elementary school, middle school, or first or even second year of high school, you still have a lot of time to explore. So you can try out a lot of extracurricular activities. Maybe you can go to a math club at school or a computer science club, or maybe sign up for these courses outside of school and just see like, oh, am I interested or am I not? But at the same time, keep doing these like liberal arts, social sciences, and over a couple of months, you can really start to compare and see, oh, this is so much better for me. I'm so much better at it, and I want this to be my future. Or maybe you're actually not interested in STEM, which is okay, and liberal arts is for you. I hope that answers your question. And then we are going to turn this over to Miss Kiefte. She works at Appleby College. She was unfortunately didn't get to be my math teacher. I would have really loved to have her. And she's also the head of math contests at Appleby. And I will let her share her screen now.
Okay, thanks for that, Ella. First of all, this is great. I think that um, just having these discussions is the first step. So thanks for everybody to everybody for being here. So, first of all, who am I? I'm Rachel Kiefte. I use she/her pronouns, um, and I love math. Students are always surprised to hear that, and they say, like, "Wait, you actually like this stuff? You actually read math in your spare time?" I do. I really do. I think that math is beautiful. I think that um, it describes the world around us. It is, the only form of pure truth. Um, I also taught biology for a few years. So as you can see, it's one of my teachables. I taught it for 3 years, and it is really interesting as well. And I'll be speaking to some of my experiences there. But math is just, it's different. What I always find interesting is that in biology, things are always changing. New discoveries are made, which affects theories, and things are just, very different even from when I first started teaching it to now. Whereas math is unchanging, it's steady, it's consistent, it's predictable, it's just something I'm really, really passionate about. And that's partially why I decided to become a teacher, is to try to get students interested in math, which is very hard because elementary school and high school math, don't tell anyone this, is not very interesting. It's not. The reason why you have to learn it, though, is because obviously, in order to be able to form these complex thoughts in university, you need that background knowledge. So if you're not finding the math that you're learning right now very interesting, that's okay. It's kind of like an English teacher wouldn't find grammar very interesting or nouns very interesting. And that's kind of the equivalent. What you're learning right now is the grammar and the nouns of math. And when you get older, you'll be forming the sentences and the paragraphs, and you'll be writing essays. So things do get a lot more interesting, don't worry. Right now, I'm teaching grade 11 math. I'm teaching grade 12 advanced functions. I'm teaching grade 12 calculus and vectors. And I am at Appleby College currently. Note that any stories that I tell are just that. They're anecdotal. They're not meant to target anybody or offend anybody. They're just my own personal experiences. I have tried my best to keep them anonymous. One thing to note is that I have worked at several other schools other than Appleby, so this isn't necessarily all about my Appleby experiences. I also apologize in advance if I put things into binary terms like boy and girl. I absolutely am aware that the obstacles faced by non-binary and transgender students are vast. But since they're not my personal experiences, I won't be talking about them today. As well, the added layer of culture and race, that is a whole other ball game that we just simply don't have the time to discuss. Okay, so I'm gonna get kind of started at the beginning. Yes, that is me. That is me in grade 7, I think. And then that's me, I think, in high school chemistry class. So things were different then. It was, in elementary school, Ella touched on this as well. 80% of elementary school teachers are women. And they're probably not math majors either. In fact, they may have had a lot of math difficulty. And so that's what young girls grow up seeing, is they grow up seeing people who are not confident in their math abilities, and those people being women. So I always had in my head that math was this difficult thing that I didn't have to be good at, and that, like, girls weren't good at this anyway. It's okay if you find it difficult. So I didn't like math. I didn't like it until grade 8, actually. In grade 8, this isn't to brag, but I got 100% in the course. And I thought to myself, this isn't hard, like this isn't so bad. So it kind of got me out of my funk, and I actually started to really like it. When I was in high school, girls would definitely dumb themselves down. My best friend in high school was very smart, but anytime she got a math or science test mark back, that was always a high mark, she would always hide her test. She didn't want the boys to know how smart she was because she didn't think that that would be appealing to them. So that was something that I tried to avoid as well. The other thing was enrichment. A lot of boys were targeted for enrichment. I was never, even though I had the highest mark in every single math course I took, it was always the boys who got that enrichment, and I never did. I was even accused of plagiarism at one point by a teacher. They took me outside and they said, I have no evidence of this, but I don't think you wrote this paper. I wrote the paper, for the record, but that was just another weird moment. I did win the math award at graduation, and I think everybody was really surprised by that. And when I decided to go to Waterloo for pure math, I thought things would be a lot better, but it turns out that the higher the stakes, the bigger the problems. So things did not get much better in university. So I did go to the University of Waterloo, and I studied pure math. Part of the problem there is that people don't know what pure math is. So I always have to try to explain, it's theoretical math. It's not applying it to everyday life. It's developing tools to apply it to everyday life. So I was definitely a minority in all of my classes. And one distinct memory I have was I would be sitting in a class on the first day, and a boy would walk up to me. He'd look at me and he'd say, "Is this complex analysis?" I'm like, "Yeah, sit down." You might think that it was a one-off, but this happened 3 more times. Not in that class, in other classes. Boys would walk up and say, "Is this calculus 4? Is this real analysis? Is this XYZ?" So it was obviously they didn't think that I belonged here, and they were trying to tell me that I was in the wrong classroom. I was in a problem-solving course that was excellent, and part of it involved group work. I remember there was a particular set of questions where I was making suggestions how to solve it, and I was being totally ignored. 15 minutes pass. A male student makes the same suggestions. "Oh, that's a great idea. Let's do that." And of course, that was the right approach. So just never really being listened to. I remember going to the office hours of one of my professors, just getting some clarification, and he told me, "You should not be in math." He said, this isn't going to come easy to you. You shouldn't be in math. And so I think part of my degree is to spite that one professor. All right, workplace. This is where most of my focus is going to be, because as a teacher and you are students, obviously it's going to have the most impact. So I have had a lot of issues, mostly based on my gender. So the first day of class, I always state my credentials. I always say I've got a bachelor's in math, in pure mathematics. I have my honor specialist in math, because that makes it less likely that they're going to question me. If they think that I'm just another teacher who has a history degree, who is teaching math on the side, they're not going to believe my solutions. Students do question my solutions a lot. And it's fine to question people for sure, But when you raise your hand and you say, oh, you did that wrong, that's not great. For the record, I didn't do it wrong. Don't worry. I find that a male teacher is assumed capable until proven otherwise, and a female teacher is assumed incapable until proven otherwise. So I have lots of male colleagues who are never questioned by students. But for some reason, myself and my female colleagues are regularly questioned. Parent-teacher interviews, if there are any parents on the call, please do not do the following. In parent-teacher interviews, and it's well-intended, I've had parents come up to me and say, oh, now I know why my son likes math so much. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Because I don't think that it has to do with me being a woman. I think that it might just be that I think that I'm a pretty good math teacher and I'm passionate about my job. So it doesn't always have to be about me being a woman. They always ask, oh, is math your second teachable? What's your degree in? It's in math. Math is my first teachable. It's my first choice. So just the parent interactions are always a little bit awkward. Not only that, but my colleagues, and again, not necessarily at Appleby, but I taught one challenging course for a few years, and then asked to have a bit of a break from it. One of my colleagues came into the math office, and that colleague was currently teaching the course. And he had a question about one of the problems in the course. I was sitting in the math office, and he asked my male colleague to explain the solution to the question that I wrote. And I said something. I said, I'm right here. And he kind of laughed it off, but then we did discuss it the next day, and he apologized, and I said, you know, we're good. So that's something I'll talk about in the future, or in the next slide, is that most people are well-intentioned. I also noticed that when it comes to advanced classes, be it a grade 12 class or an AP class, there are just fewer women teaching them. Those are primarily taught by males, and that's just not a good role model for female students, especially because it's like we're saying, oh, you can learn and be good at grade 9 math, but you can't teach grade 12 math. You can't go all the way up there. It can obviously get worse in the business world. This is a story a friend of mine said that I could share, that at one point in her career, she was told that she wouldn't be taken seriously unless she wore more makeup. And I don't think that her male counterparts were told the same. The dynamic with students, so just my own observations of what I've seen, is that students kind of always talk about who they think has the highest mark in the course. And that's always an interesting sociological experiment to me, where students say, oh, so-and-so has got the highest mark, so he doesn't have to worry about this. And it's interesting because it's always a he who they think has the highest mark in the course. And as the person who knows everybody's marks, I know that it's actually usually a girl who has the highest mark, but nobody thinks that. Because as Ella was saying, a lot of us are not confident about our math skills. We don't boast about our math skills. And so everybody just thinks that it's always a male with the highest mark. I have students work in groups a lot on the whiteboards. And I've definitely seen a girl with a correct solution being corrected by a boy who's telling her the wrong solution. And I've seen them get convinced. I've seen them get convinced that they're wrong. I do step in at that point and say something about it, but it is really interesting how a girl who's so confident in her solution can be convinced otherwise. I definitely have seen that boys are far more confident, but in fact, I would say that they're overconfident. I've run the math club for a few years, and I saw once there was a young boy who said, "I'm the smartest one in here, other than the teachers." And I just thought that was really interesting because it was a girl leading math club who was certainly more educated than this boy and more successful. And so I just thought it was really strange that he had that level of confidence. Another thing I've noticed is that parents have lower expectations of their daughters for the most part. In parent-teacher interviews, they rarely ask how their daughter can improve in the course. When I'm talking to somebody whose son is in my course, they say, how can they improve their mark? How can they get better than that 95? I want them to get 100. Whereas when I'm interviewing with parents of daughters, they say, oh, is she happy? How is she socially? Does she have friends in the class? They never ask how they can improve their mark, or very rarely do, which is disappointing. Obviously, I don't want to end on such a hopeless note. So I do want to talk about what can we do? How can this be fixed? It's not a quick solution, but there are some things that we as a group can do. The first thing is, don't be naive. Although things have improved since I went to school, things are still far from perfect. There's still a lot of work to be done. So don't think that this is a problem in the past. Just because women can vote now doesn't mean that our lives are significantly better. So another thing is to talk openly about our struggles. This forum is a great setup for everybody to hear, because I found it really interesting that most of you hadn't seen a woman challenged in STEM. And unfortunately, that's going to change. In the next few years, you are going to see that. And that's just a sad reality, is that you are going to see your male peers question your female teachers. You are going to be mansplained for sure in math. And that's just a fact of the matter for the foreseeable future anyway. Things are moving in the right direction, but we need to keep pushing that. So talking openly about our struggles makes us aware that there are still struggles. Is still an issue. Even if you don't personally experience it, others probably do. Something to keep in mind is that most people, and I alluded to this earlier, are well-intentioned but ill-informed. Most people do not mean to be sexist when it comes to math. And that's how you have to live your life, is because if you assume best intent, it makes it a lot easier. If you assume that people around you have the worst intentions, your life is going to be a lot harder. But I can say that most people, anybody who I've ever talked to about this issue, everybody who I've ever called out about an issue has been apologetic, and they've seemed really sincere about improving. So most people don't mean to say things or do things that are rude to women. So just keep that in mind, that they don't mean to hurt you, and a lot of them want guidance in the right direction. The other thing is, don't perpetuate the problem yourself. What I mean by that is, just because you are affected by this issue, just because you identify as female, does not mean that you're part of the solution. You might actually be part of the problem. So how that happens is when women pull each other down. And also Honestly, I have failed at this. Full disclosure time. Early in my career, I didn't even realize I was doing this, but anytime I thought of a really smart boy in one of my classes, I thought, wow, he is naturally good at math. Anytime I thought of a smart girl in my class, I thought, wow, she's a really hard worker. And I caught myself doing that. I had read a book about biases, and I thought, oh my God, I do that. Even though I was the student who was naturally gifted, I just automatically associate girls, they're hard workers. They have to work hard to get the same results as the boys who are naturally talented. And that was really jarring for me to realize that I was perpetuating this issue that I myself had experienced. So just being aware of these biases is going to allow us to correct them. And I'm not perfect. I still miss opportunities. Just like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was covering a biology class for a coworker. So I was just, in there, and I said, oh, fun fact. I actually used to teach biology for a few years, so I could answer some of your questions. And one of the boys raised their hand and said, oh yeah, what's interphase? And I froze because I was so shocked. For middle school students who maybe don't know what interphase is, it's a very basic thing you learn in grade 9, 10, 11, 12 biology. So I was shocked, and what I should have done was call him out and say, if I were a male teacher, would you have asked me that? But instead, what I did was I gave him the right answer. So in that moment, instead of teaching him a lesson, I was proving my own worth to a child. So I still miss those opportunities. Obviously, some of you might not feel comfortable calling people out for this sort of thing, and that's okay. You'll get there eventually. It's interesting, people have this idea of a mathematical woman in their head. So women are allowed to do math, but only a certain type of woman. It's the woman who, is shy and quiet. She keeps to herself. She maybe wears glasses. And that's the type of woman who can do math. So when people meet me, they're shocked, and they're sure that I somehow, tricked my way through university and getting my degree, because they don't expect women who study math to speak their mind. They don't expect them to wear makeup or be feminine, but we can have it all. That one woman who does math that they have in their mind is no more or less qualified than the woman that I just described. More stuff on what we can do. So be yourself and be confident. That's easier said than done, I know. I spent a lot of time hiding what a big dork I am. And I was only truly happy after I really embraced the dorkiness. So if you're a dork, just embrace it. Life will be so much easier that way. And now I have friends who have similar interests to me. I have a partner who encourages me. You were really only going to try to truly find happiness if you embrace who you really are as a person. And if that person likes math or likes science or engineering, then all the better. The other thing is self-advocating. If your teacher isn't giving you extension work or enrichment work, ask, because I'm sure that it's not on purpose. They're not purposefully forgetting you. It is just ingrained in their brain to not think of women as being strong mathematicians. So if your teacher is not giving you extra things, or if you feel like they're not seeing you as the person or mathematician you are, say something, ask for that stuff. And be confident, because as Ella said, there's a huge confidence gap between men and women. Men are more likely to ask for the promotion, to ask for the raise. They overvalue their skills. Women undervalue their skills. Support each other. You know, be proud of your friends' accomplishments. Don't let the competitiveness get to you. You know, there's lots of women who say, oh, she's competition because there's only room for one female on the board of directors. You know, they have to have the one female, and I'm going to be that one female. No, that's how men want us to think. There's room at the table for all of us. You have to support each other. Otherwise, we're just going to pull each other down. You need to break the cycle. If you are not confident in math, you're portraying that to other people. Be confident as long as you have those abilities to be confident in. Putting other women down doesn't pull you up. It affects all of us. Stand up for yourself using what comes naturally. For me, it's humor and sarcasm. You may have seen my mug on the other slide that said student tears on it. I'm sure that if anybody here is actually a student of mine, they can attest to that I can be a little sarcastic. So that's the tool that I use. When a student tries to correct me, I say, it's okay, I'm used to being student-splained. Or if a student has questioned my solution, I say, I'm a woman in STEM, I'm used to being questioned. So using that, I understand that a lot of you are not going to be confident or have the comfortable doing that, and that's okay. Do what feels natural to you. You may be a much more patient person than I am, and maybe your approach should say, hey, you may not have meant it this way, but this is how I took that. This is how it made me feel. Or, hey, so-and-so, I think this is subconscious, but when you do this, it really shows this. So call people out, because people do want to improve. Do it in a way that feels natural, though, for you. Also, the way that I always think of it is I am much more defensive of my friends than of myself. If somebody were to wrong me, I wouldn't make a huge deal of it sometimes, but if they wrong one of my friends, oh, watch out. So what you should do is think of yourself as a friend. You know, do for yourself what you would do for a friend. Be kind to yourself, stand up for yourself, because some people aren't going to do it for you. We do have some allies, some other advocates, but you have to learn how to stand up for yourself and how to stand up for others. And I'm really hopeful, especially with this new generation, that that things are going to get better, and to a place where people no longer equate math with men. It should be for all of us. And that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. I actually learned so much more about Miss Kiefte. I was on a trip with her back in grade 7. And since grade 7, I was like, because grade 12 was so far away, right? I was like, man, once I'm in grade 12, because I knew she teaches grade 12, I was like, I want to be in her class. But now I'm in grade 11, I'm taking grade 12 math, and I'm not in her class, and I'm so sad about it. But yeah, I'm just really thankful for this opportunity for her to come and talk and share a little bit more about her personal stories. And we are just going to wrap up. We're going to talk a little bit about our online STEM classes, Seeds of STEAM. And here are some of our sample curriculums. We're going to be talking about the law of conservation of mass, how matter can neither be created nor destroyed, and how that is so applicable in our day-to-day life. We're going to talk about buoyancy, like how big ships float, how they carry so much weight, but manage to travel across the ocean. and we're going to talk about data scientists, who they are, what they do, and they make a lot of money. Why do they make that much money? And engineers, also what they do, how to become one, and how they help us in our day-to-day life. And then, so if you guys are interested, please go to seedsofsteam.org. And if you're interested in any of the STEM courses, just click the top right button at the website, register, and then we have an interest survey down below. And that would be it for today. Thank you guys all for coming. Please scan the QR code. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to speak or put it in the chat. And if not, that would be it today. Okay, that was good. I think we're gonna wrap up now. Thank you guys for coming. And yeah, hope to see you guys soon. Thank you guys so much.